Okay. Good afternoon, guys. Um, Nice to talking to you all again. What I'll do is today we are going in for the second lesson of this subject. I have about 12 slides. I will brief you what it is. Soon after that, in the evening, what I'll do is now when I finish this particular lecture, I will send you this particular lecture to you through Moodle, and also I will send you a formative test paper. In the formative assessment means there is no marks for that. It is just to prepare the students for the real assessment. Now, as I told you, in this particular subject, there are four assessments. Three supposed to be in the classroom, and the one is supposed to be all are open book, assessments. So you can do it without any much of a problem online. And it is about 2 hours. You will get for that. And also, for the last one, you will get about 3 weeks, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that. I'll give you a brief everything. So before that, we'll start doing that for you to get used to this particular assessment. So the first assessment we call it is a formative assessment, that is to prepare yourself. So what I'm sending in today, there is no marks for that. It's just to prepare yourself. Most probably by this Friday or by next Monday, we will have the first proper university assessment, right? That assessment is now going to be based on the first two lectures. That is what we have done a couple of days ago, and what we are doing today. These are the two things will be taken into consideration on those things. Okay. Now, last week we looked at, or last class we looked at the what do you mean by an organization? What is an organization? Today, what we are trying to look at, what are the organization theories? Fundamentally, what are the organization theories and what are the controls? We look at what you mean by controls. Now, in this particular session, we are going to learn open systems theory. We are going to learn about stakeholders theory and also strategies for organization control. These are the three things which we will be looking at this particular subject. Now, organizations are open systems. We call it open systems. Why we call it open systems? They operate, they work in an environment. The activities are always interact with everything outside. Now, they affect the environment. They are also affected by the environment, which means now you look at when you are buying if you are a manufacturing company, you buy your raw materials from outside, maybe local, maybe in foreign raw materials. You bring it, you convert that into a particular product. Then you go and sell it to another customer. Your supplier is in the environment. Your machineries and everything you buy from somebody else. It's in the environment. Then when we go and sell your products, also that is in the environment. So even though the organization is structured, or it is within a particular building or within a particular area, their functions are not necessarily within an area. They buy from others, they store it from somewhere else, they manufacture, then sell it to somebody else. So the organization is always about input, process, and output. Inputs, process, and output. In this, sense, it always works with your consumers outside, your customers outside, your partners outside, your bankers outside. So it's always involved with that environment. The organization impacts the environment also. What are you going to do with your wastewater? What are you going to do with the waste after manufacturing? Then what are the environment thing what you're going to do? Then you look at, say, that is how you effect. Sometimes you bring in a new technology, you develop a new technology, you develop a new product. All that to the society, you affect the environment. You have an impact on the environment. In the same way, organization also, the environment also has an impact in the organization. It's not necessarily, say, the economic environment today. Almost all the shops are closed. Most of the businesses are not doing. The government gives permission only for certain essentials. So that is how the environment impacts the organizations. Now this pandemic is an environmental disaster, environmental problem. It impacts the organization. Government regulations are an environmental issue. That impacts the organization. So anything and everything that happens in our environment will impact the organization. Anything and everything that happens within an organization also impact them. This is what we call it an open theory. It's open system. Organizations are very open systems. Then in this open system that interacts with environment for renewal and growth, it has to manage its inflows, it has to manage its outflows when it is interacting with the environment. Now, any management system, we can talk about the management system, can be any management system can be put on open system. Okay. Now, what is the open system theory? It refers to simply the concept of organizations are strongly influenced by the environment. This is the simple theory what we talk about. That means the organization doesn't work in isolation. It works, organizations involved, influenced by environment. This is what open system theory. So if somebody asks you to explain open system theory, you can talk about what are the inputs coming into the organization. You are buying raw materials, you're making, you are importing, so there are a set of peoples to buy. Your suppliers, your manufacturers, or whoever it is, right? The businesses whom you are dealing with, the consultants you are dealing with, the advertising agencies you are dealing with, the transporters you are dealing with, all of them are in environmental elements. So on your inputs, you identify all those things as the suppliers and supporters and things like that. The process, machinery comes from outside, the people come from outside, all those things. So that is also when the labor is hired from outside, you interact with environment. And when you finish a particular goods or service, it is sold to private consumers, customers, again environment. So you put your input, process, and out, and say all these activities happens with an environmental input. Environmental impact is there are all three things. You can't manufacture anything what you want because there are government regulations. You can't sell anything what you want because there are laws and legal controls. You can't advertise liquor and cigarettes on TV or any form of advertisement is banned. It influences that type of companies. So that is what simply the open theory talks about, right? Now, open theory was, you talk about it later. What happens is, why in the open system theory, we talk about a particular word called entropy. Entropy means not organized. The typical English meaning for this is not disorganized. So when we talk about certain things in outside the environment is not organized. So what happens? How when we say it is not organized for the organization? Your raw material is in one place. Okay, there can be not 4 or 5 raw materials. Those are not in one place. Those are in different places. The labor is from one place. The capital is from another place. Other materials what you are going to use is going to be another place. So it's completely disorganized. It's all over. The inputs are all over the place. So bring those inputs together, because you're putting all the raw materials and things like that up. It doesn't mean that you have a production. Those things has to be organized and taken through a proper process to be converted into a product. I'll give you an example. We'll take a hotel or a eating house. You go to market, you buy vegetables. You go to a meat market, you buy meat. You go to oil market and various grocery shops, buy oil. Different shops will give different things. It's a disorganized place market. You go to 10 or 15 shops and buy all those things and come to your hotel. Because you brought in all those things, it is not made automatically made into food. Your cookers and cookers come from some place, gas come from one place, your chef comes from one place. All those elements come together, take all these raw materials and put through a process, the cooking process, cut and chop and all those things. Cut, chop, marinate, fry and all those things. What happens? That particular activity makes these disorganized elements into a organized food. So what happens is this entropy, this a disorganized element through a process will get much more organized. So we call it negative entropy. So in what happens, organizations in input to making an input to output, they reduce that entropy part, the disorganized part, and bring it more and more negative entropy. That means it is organized. Any organization will go through that particular part. Okay, this is what we simply talk about open system in a theory. How open system theory works from entropy to negative entropy. Okay, now it is like what I said. It's an input, then process, then output, and from output the feedback comes. The consumer will say this is good, the color is not good, the size is good, the smell is not good. Then you change the input, then you change the process. I bring in much more quality or things like that to correct the situation. Now, I'll give you some simple examples, right? This input, process, and output. So, you are going to make a cup of tea. What is there? What has to be taken? Put it in a jar. It has to boil. Your tea bag is not in some other place. You have to take it and bring it, put it in a cup. Sugar is somewhere else. Milk is somewhere else. So now this is for the disorganized environment that we talk about. We bring in all those things together. Heat up the water and pour the water into all these things. That is the process. You are making a cup of tea. After about 2 minutes or 3 minutes, the cup of tea is made. All these disorganized elements are in an organized manner. That is a cup of tea. Organization is exactly like that. From disorganized to negative entropy. Okay, there are plenty of examples I have given on this. Now you can read about it. Okay. Now, like what you said. Now, say when we talk about environment, right? Now, I talked about the what is that the theory, right? The open theory, right? It's open end. Open theory we talked about. Now, when you talk about environment, I told you in the last class there is internal environment, there is external environment. How do you understand the internal environment? How do you identify the internal environment? Internal environment is always analyzed through a model called SWOT analysis. Any particular situation, you do a SWOT for your organization, for a brand, for yourself. All the time the SWOT cannot be the same, right? Now in the different situations, the SWOT can change. But the SWOT is a particular model that you use to understand any internal environments. Now, on the SWOT analysis, I'll send you, I'll share this with you. I'll share this with you. Oh, sorry, I will share this with you. Now, in the SWOT analysis, strength and weaknesses are always controllable. You bring in elements only controllable. Strength, what you already have. Weaknesses, what you already have, but you can correct it. You have the means to correct it. That is weakness. So strength and weaknesses are always internal, always manageable. Opportunities and threats are not under your control, and that is external. So strength and weakness are internal, it is controllable. Opportunities and threats are not controllable, and it is not in your control. It's external and not in your control. Now, another way when you look at strength and opportunities are helpful. You have a strength and you have an opportunity. You can match that. So it's very helpful for an organization. Weaknesses and threats are very harmful because your weakness will kill the organization. Weaknesses will kill, damage the company, and the threats will completely take you off guard. Right? Anything can happen to your business at any given time. So you look at the strength and weaknesses, the SWOT model will give you absolutely good understanding of your organization. Now take for instance, right, a situation, right? When you do a SWOT analysis, now say if ANC is going to do a SWOT analysis for them, okay, how to run business, what are the strengths? The strength, one of the biggest strength is that we were able to run these classes online. So that means the online platforms are ready. It was available. The lecturers are available. The students are available to conduct it. That's a big strength. Okay? What can be the opportunities? So uninterrupted education is an opportunity. You don't need to go and stop. You have enough and more. You will have adjustment of your time is easy. So that is fantastic. You don't need to travel. That is a strength. You save time. What are the weaknesses of the whole system? Connectivity. Sometimes in some areas the connectivity is not. You have to have a better bandwidth. You have to buy a better bandwidth. So it is controllable. Now, when you don't have the connectivity at all, that means there's no IT facility in that area. That's a threat. That is not controllable by you. If the bandwidth is not there, you can buy a higher package. That's under your control. Even though it's a weakness, it's under your control. There is no IT, no computers in that particular area, no mobile phones work, no network. So right, it is not under your control. Even though you're willing to pay money, it's not available. So you look at in any type of situation at this moment, having this type of facilities is a strength in us. What is an opportunity in future? We can really look at conducting some classes or some discussions like that. So a SWOT analysis for an organization can be done at any given time. You can do it for you. You can do it for use in the current context. So these kind of things, what we should understand on the SWOT analysis, right? SWOT is done like that. Now, in the while internal environment, when we analyze that in the model called SWOT, external environment, that is outside the organization. How do we do? Outside the organization, we will analyze that, evaluate that through various models. One is PESTEL. PESTEL is, we call it PESTEL. PESTEL. P for political, E for economic, S for social, L for legal, T for another E for environment, and T for technology. Now, what happens? Why these best factors? These are the things will influence an organization. Political influence. Political influence in the sense the political systems, right? If the parliamentary is not strong enough, or it's a hung parliament, people don't come and invest. The companies don't invest. That impacts your business. Political uncertainty. Now, see, if there is election going to be, then people don't invest. The business will curtail, isn't it? Political influence. Economic per capita income (GDP). Now, when we talk about dollar has gone up to 199 rupees. 199 rupees a dollar. About a month ago, it's 185. So what happens when we export no goods? Export karna kuda vasate no, because we are receiving in high value goods, high value money. But if we are importing, we are paying more for the dollar. So these are the things we talk about the economic environment. Political environment will influence, then the economic environment will influence. Then you look at technology, when the changing technology, still means it's social, cultural, and things like that. We can't do now, we talk about, right? People are not happy that today being a poet that we can't go to concert because it's a cultural thing. We can't, say, have, license for gambling, shops because the people don't like it. It's a Buddhist country, so they don't want to go in for gambling. That's a social order. Right now, we have a particular culture, a style of operating, the way we dress, the way we eat. And we don't eat, certain things, not like in any other countries, because that is it is ethically prohibited, not prohibited. In our culture, we don't eat certain things. So those are the social issues, right? Yes, T is technology. How much the technology is changing in and around us? You amount of smartphones, the amount of various things what we have is completely changing us. Then other environmental. We are very much concerned about environment. We can't drop particular dirt in the road. We can't release dirty water to the environment. There is environment policy is very strong. Environmental authority is very strong. You can't just put up a building the way you want. You have to get permission. You have to get the environmental authorities approval on certain things. So we are very concerned about environment. Those environment regulations will influence us. L is legal. Taxes, duties, registration of the company, what to sell, what not to sell, what are the regulations on your packages and things like that. All that matters for business. So when you are talking about a particular business, there are two type of, we identify that is what is external environment, what is the internal environment. To understand the internal environment, we do a SWOT analysis. To understand the external environment, we do a PESTEL model. Okay. Now it's not only PESTEL, right? PESTEL is one particular model to understand external environment, right? Another big model what we use is the Porter's 5 forces. Now Michael Porter is a beginner scholar when it comes to organizational writing. So continuously when you're studying, when you're doing management or management courses, right, diploma courses, right? Till you finish your master's or doctorate, you'll be hearing this name, Michael Porter. There are so many models he's talked about, right? One of the key important model is the Porter's 5 force model. What he talks about is when you are evaluating an environment, අපේ පරිසරය ගැන දැනගන්න ඕන නම් මේ model එක අරහා අපිට දැනගන්න එක හරි ලේසියි. One of the element is what they talk about the what do you call talk about the power of suppliers. The power of suppliers in Kiani, there is only one supplier for a particular product. And ape company kanni vare mone. So what happens? You can't negotiate with him. Kiyana ganata api ganda mone. Like electricity. What happens if you don't pay the electricity? They'll come and cut off another line. No power supply. Without power supply, you can't do anything, right? So no manufacturing, nothing like that, isn't it? So when you have in a particular business environment, your suppliers are very strategic. That means that in a particular product, the raw material what they're supplying is very rare, and it is supplied by only in one particular person. Their demanding power is very high. He can come and say, my price is gone up by 100 rupees per kilo. Whether you like it or not, you buy. So like that there are companies, there are environments, some in a companies, some in a suppliers become very, very strong. They indirectly control your business. Now say when without if petroleum corporation fails to supply electricity, the electricity board fail to supply electricity, I mean will be shut down. That is what we call the power of supply. But what happens? There are lots of suppliers. If one person is not going to give you, we can go and negotiate with the next guy and can buy. Sometimes for a better price, better service, you can buy. Because the competition is so high, so you'll have a problem of getting it from one person. That is the power of supply. So more the power of supplier, that is not a very, very good situation for your organization. Because organizations are open systems, they interact with everything. What happens? There is only one buyer. Now you manufacture everything to that particular buyer. The buyer can come and say, no, it's too much of the cost is too much. I'll pay only this much. Or I want no more credit. I want 1 month credit. I want 2 months credit. If that is the only buyer you have, what happens? You're compelled to supply, isn't it? You don't have any other buyers. So either way, whether you have a very strong the power of supply is more or power of buyer is more, both these situations will influence the organization negatively. The chances of influencing the organization negatively is very high. They can always come and demand. So these are two factors. We look at another factors. What we talk about the third one is not necessarily the third one, right? In order, threat of new entrants. Now, you are in a particular business. If another competitor come and enter that business very easily. Now I'll tell you what does that mean? That you have a shop down say Peradini Road, big business. Right now you have a eating house. Say Peradini Road, that somebody rent is about say 100,000 rupees a month, and all the other things say someone about 2 million rupees for accessories and things like that. And the government, the license and all is not a problem. So anybody who has that money, who is an interest in to be entrepreneur, especially in the food industry, then they can start a small shop next to you because not so expensive. But what happens if you want to come and you want to be in petrol refining? So you want to come and put up a factory for a refinery, $100 million investment. And the government regulations are very strict. What are the things you got to have? What are things you should not have? And all those things. So in that type of industries, the ease of entry is very difficult. Large investment, large approval processes, it will go into again and again and again. So you look at the third element is how easy for somebody to come and set up business. If it is very easy for somebody to come and set up business, that environment is not that much of a good environment for you to start business. Yeah, anybody come and start. Okay. The other one we talk about, the substitutes. By chance, your products are going up in price. Whether the people, rather than buying your products, can they go and buy a substitute? Substitute can make you have a biscuit brand, somebody else has a biscuit brand. Your price is going up, and they go and buy the other biscuit. That is not substitute. That is a competitor. What I'm talking about, right? If this is not there, what else people can buy? What else they will do? That is a substitute. I'll give you an example. Right? Fish. Ankai warkan kalid katinone. Right now we have a northeast and southwest monsoon season. Right? During monsoon we can't go to sea, so the fish prices will go up. Malu prices will go up. When the malu prices are going up in Sri Lanka, and what they have identified, the best substitute of fish is soya. During this period, soya alayvina pramane vadi. So that is a substitute for fish. So look at, if the substitutes are available in a country for your products, if there are plenty of substitutes available in a country for your products, you will find it very difficult to increase the price. The time you increase the price, the people will go to the substitute. We'll also study that particular word called price elasticity of demand. Demand anuva price very. Okay, so that is that. The fourth one is the what is called substitutes. The fifth one, the five forces for the fifth one is the competitors. How many competitors are there? How strong they are? Is it a very perfect market? Plenty of competitors. No, they compete with matured market. They compete for the same pie. Or is it developing in a market? In a developing market, how many competitors are there? How much they are strong? What are the advantages they have? That is what we call both the competitive environment. So we talk about the power of the supply. We talk about the power of the buyer. We talk about the ease of entry. Then we talk about substitutes. Then we talk about competition. These are the 5 areas Michael Porter talks about that you have to worry about when you start a business, when you enter a company. Okay, guys. Now, with that, I will stop today because we are just finishing in 40 minutes, right? Now, I have not finished this in a full. No, I have one more. Then we talk about controls. When we talk about organization or control organization, I have a lot of activities, finance activities, marketing, sales, HR, and things like that. In every activity, we use a lot of resources, human resources, money, time, this, that. All those things are used. How do we know that we are using these elements properly? How do we know that all these elements are giving us the maximum return? To understand that, to evaluate that, correct that only we have controls in organization. Now there are a lot of controlling tools now. So when we talk about, right, you have to make a profit. How do you know that you are making a profit or not? End of the month, you do a P&L, profit and loss account. Now when you are selling, you are giving credit for your business. How do you know that you are giving too much of credit or less credit? You do a ratio analysis of credit and sales. When you're buying goods, that you buy raw materials. So you buy raw materials, keep it in your stores. How do you know that you are buying too much of raw materials or less amount of raw materials? You do a ratio analysis. You put a standard, right? This is the We need to keep in a 1 month raw materials, but time to time we check whether we are having it or we are having whether they are having more, whether we are having less. So whatever the measuring unit what we put right now, PNL, ratio analysis, or we say the targets, right, monthly targets, weekly targets, time frame, right, I want this to be done within a week. All those things are control elements. All the activities of the organizations are controlled through these measurable elements, right? Now we can say supervision and observation is a control element. Those are some controlling techniques. Budgetary control is a controlling element. Return on investment, all those things are controlling elements. So you can look at any organization when you start doing the whole understanding is when they start not doing producing things, they use resources, they act with they involve with the environment. So it becomes an open system, and they use resources. The resources has to be controlled properly. This is what today's thing talks about. I will send you these things now, and also guys, I'm sending you some the formative assessment. Try that. Right? If you try that tomorrow, what I'll do is I'm trying to have a small session in the morning for about half an hour, maybe around 9 to 10, right? 9 to 9:30, like a small session for explain what is this assignment is, right? When you're by the time you will look at the questions, try to answer that. If you can send it to me in the night, it's okay, even if you have answered one. What I'll do is tomorrow I'll explain what you should be, how you should be answering. But that is very necessary for you to do the first assessment. The first assessment is going to be last lecture and this lecture. Okay guys, any questions you all have?